Good afternoon, everyone. Um, I just want to thank God for this opportunity. As I said, this is my passion to share. I love to learn. You know, I just wish that someone was doing all the research and I just learned. But, you know, so that's the only drawback. But it's very interesting doing all of this research to make these presentation. And I am just thankful that I get the opportunity to share it. So I'm not keeping it to myself. So it's helping me to better understand what I learned. So as we have started out many weeks ago doing the 12 causes of disease, we looked at several of them already. We looked at acidosis. What else did we look at? Anybody recall? It's been such a long time. I think we also nutrition. What else? Deficiency. Yes. Causes. Eight. The laws of health. Okay, so we're looking at the 8 channels of elimination. What are the ones that we already did? So we look at the colon, what are kidneys, cell membrane. Did we look at the lung yet? The respiratory system? Yes, we did. And what else? We did one more. No, we didn't look yet. The urinary system, that was the last time. The urinary system, right? We looked at that the last time. So today we're moving on. We're going to look at the liver as a channel of elimination. And every time, as I said, I just never thought this was so complex. I really never thought it was so complex. The complexity of the urinary system was one thing. It was understood because it's a whole system. Now we're looking at the liver, and this is just one organ. And I'm like, this is not a whole system. It is one organ, and it is very, very complex. And it's a lot of work just understanding the complexity of the liver. Well, my hope is that as we go through this, you will also understand at least one thing or two things about how the liver functions and how it works. Because the goal is to understand the anatomy and function of the liver. And also we're looking at the disease and some tests that is pretty common when we go to the doctor trying to define whether or not we have any form of liver disease. Okay, so that's what we're going to try to understand today. Now, before we go into this presentation, I think we should pray, because I need all the prayers to. Eternal Father and our God, as we come before your holy presence, Lord, we give you thanks and we give you praise because you're God, Lord. Lord Jesus, we're thankful for the masterpiece that you have made us into, Lord. Lord Jesus, we are grateful that you have all the understanding. And at this moment, Lord, as we look at this individual organ that is within our body that is so vital for life and for us to exist, Lord. Oh, Father, we're asking for your presence right among us, Lord, so that we will understand what we are reading, Lord. Oh, Father, we're asking you, Lord, to help us that whatever we learn, Lord, we may apply these to our lives and use them so we can preserve our body to do your will, Lord. Lord, we're asking for your guidance in your holy, precious name. Amen. Now, what do we know about the liver? I don't want to talk by myself. What do we know about the liver as an organ within the body? It is a filter, and it's a filter, and what does that mean? Okay, so it's a channel of elimination. So it's help. Mm-hmm. Glycogen. Mm-hmm. Oh yes, it is huge.
Determine how your skin look like.
Mm-hmm.
Your liver control a lot your blood sugar. Did I give you?
So the liver itself, so we start by looking at the anatomy of the liver, and here it is the largest granular organ within the body. So it's not by chance that this organ is so large. I think the Lord made no mistake in making our bodies. It weighs about 3 to 4 pounds, somewhere there, and it varies. You know, there's not a constant weight for all the liver that is going to weigh 3 pounds. That's not the case. There's a variation in the weight, but in most books you look, you'll see the liver weighs 3 pounds. That's what I find. But that's their standard, but it varies. It's a reddish brown in color, and it is divided in 4 lobes of unequal size and shape. Now, it is located under the diaphragm, and if under the diaphragm, within the rib cage in the upper right quadrant of the abdomen. And when we were looking at the urinary system, we mentioned that the kidneys were strategically located because of the presence of the liver. So on the right side, here it says that's where we find the liver. How would it affect the kidneys? Would it have both kidneys equally? No. So how would it affect it? So one is higher. So which one is going to be higher? The left one, right? So the left one would be a little bit higher based on what we did, right? So it is the upper right quadrant, and it is deep inside of the rib cage. It's not on the surface, it's deep inside of the rib cage. The dome of liver is about against the inferior of the diaphragm surface. So if you were to look at it, so the lung would be in the back of this. So the dome of it would rest on the surface, and the diaphragm is at the base of our rib cage, where our lungs, which regulates the breathing of our intake. Now, within the liver, we have our gallbladder. And this is a thin muscular, it is a very thin sac that is on the lower side. If we look here, we'll see it's on the lower side of the gallbladder, of the liver, sorry. Okay, so it's right there. And we do this. Now, what does the liver do? So I see it fitting to just associate the liver with a factory. So it has many, many functions. So it's multifunction blood processing factory. So this is what our regular factory look like. So it functions as temporary nutrient storage. It removes toxin from blood. It removes old, damaged red blood cells. It regulates nutrients or metabolites level in blood. it keep constant supply of sugar, fat, amino acid, nucleotides, including cholesterol, and it secretes bile via the ducts and gallbladder into the small intestine. So these are all some of the function. And when we talk about nucleotide here, I don't know if anyone know what's that associated with. So the oh yeah, you would find it in the chromosome because this is the building blocks of our DNA. Right, so it would be in the chromosome.
Some of the word I'm confused because
Right, so these are building blocks for the DNA. So these are like, you know, the bases. Amino acid, phosphate, and the bases. Right, so which would be, bases would be, right, amino acids, right. So, usually the whatever goes into the liver, a lot of the blood is laden with what? With what? What are some of the things that it is? So the blood going into the liver, or the liver function, it says decomposition of red blood cell, recycling of components, toxin neutralization, conversion of substrate, which is altering amino acids to sugar to amino acids based on the need. So it's just based on our body needs. Okay, so this is the dual blood supply to the liver. So we have blood supply coming from different parts of the body. So we have blood supply coming from the gut, going up through the portal veins, and we have blood supply coming down from the hepatic artery, which carries this one here indicates what? What does it carry? It's red. Oxygen-rich blood. Right, so it takes that to the, because remember the liver is a structure too that need to be sustained, and with all the toxin that we take in on a daily basis that goes through the liver that it has to filter and clean out. So it is getting a constant supply of oxygen-rich blood to sustain the liver, and all of this is mixed at some point. So the nutrients, so it gets that supply of oxygen-rich blood which sustain it, and it also get what we break down in our food that is coming from the gut going into the liver. So the primary branch from the celiac artery, which is one of the three main visceral branch from the aorta, which is coming from the heart, we just mentioned that. It brings oxygen-rich blood. And within liver lobes or lobules, they mix, right? And this helps with neutralizing some of the toxin that we take in to our body. Because we take in a lot of toxin, not just via what we consume as food, but also from the environment. So a lot of it comes from the environment, a lot of it comes from the water, a lot of it comes from our food. And as I go through this, I just can't imagine how our body would function if we had no liver to detoxify some of the things that we take in. And I don't think we have any clue how much toxin go into our body, because we consume a lot of stuff and we're thinking that we're eating healthy, as we would call it. We're eating healthy, but based on what I'm seeing, it's everything that goes into our body has some level of toxin in it. Even the air that we take in is loaded with toxin. The air, it just blowing against our skin. The clothes we wear, the plastic clothes that we wear that is loaded with estrogen that is being absorbed into our body, the lotions we put on our skin. And the liver has all this work to do. Do we have any mercy on our liver? Are we going to take it easy on the liver at any point to preserve it so it could preserve us? It is something to really think about. Okay, it is really something to think about when we think about how our body function and how the liver. This is where do the blood supply mix, and there's a triad. There's a triad branch where the three vessels meet within. I thought, this diagram didn't show it as clear as it should. Where it meets, and that's the blood from the hepatic portal and from the artery, the vein and the artery. Along with bile, drainage, ductiles all run together to infiltrate all parts of the liver. So, and then we also have the sinusoids, and these are special liver capillaries where blood mixes and liver cell act. Okay, so the liver cells and the byproduct leave as bile in the canuculae, which merge to form bile ducts. Okay, so the bile ducts are the green one, as we know. And it is, okay, so these are the different lobes on the liver. And as we see, the lobes are not equally, it's no equality in it. There are three of them. And this is another internal structure. Okay, this is what I want to get to. And hepatocytes, these are the cells within the liver. Okay, these are the cells within the liver that works to produce, that produces the bile. Okay, hepatocytes are chemical. They are chemical transformers, or they work like the factory within the liver, and they are deep inside of the liver. And they are the one that helps to produce bile. Now they're able to convert one type of organic substrate, which we mentioned earlier, to another, and produce bile. Okay, and the bile is a network of connection that brings the bile back to the gallbladder where it is stored. Okay, and this is a show you. All right, so the gallbladder. So it's a thin wall muscular sac, as we mentioned, on the inferior surface of the liver. It stores bile that is not immediately needed for digestion. And in most cases, this is only released when it is needed. Now, bile is composed of water, ions, bile acids, organic molecules, and this including cholesterol, phospholipids, and bilirubin. Now, gallstones are mostly cholesterol. I've just had the experience of seeing gallstone when they are passed out, and once they come out very hard, but once they are left in the open, they just start breaking down. They look just like fat. So yeah, because I had a client that had these, and she passed some of them out, and she saved them so that I could see them. Yes. So acid salts emulsify fat. So this the goal for the gallbladder. What it does, stores the bile, and what it does, it emulsify fat that we take in. So when bile is released on whatever food we take in that is fatty, it makes it soapy, like when you put dishwashing liquid on fat. So it breaks it up like that. And that is the only way it can, pass over the small intestine, the walls of the small intestine. Now, it contains waste product from red blood cell, so that's also combined into the bile mixture, and that is where, because the liver breaks down the metabolic or the red blood cells that the body don't no longer need, and pass them up. Some of that, when bile is emptied into the duodenum, what it does, it causes the color of our feces to change. So, and that is what gives it that brownish color. So, you know, if your feces doesn't look brown and it is constantly not brown, then you know that your gallbladder is not really working properly. So those, yes. So those are some of the things that you look at and you could tell, because it gives the feces its color, and usually it's brown. Now, iron buffers, so it is also very alkalizing too, because when bile is released, remember, whatever is coming from the stomach is extremely acidic, because naturally your stomach is supposed to be acidic. The pH is supposed to be between 3 and 2. Your mouth is alkaline, and the lower intestines is usually alkaline. And it becomes alkaline when bile is released, and also insulin is another thing that helps with changing the pH of the chyme, which is released from the stomach. So chyme is released from the stomach. It is very acidic, but the pH of it must be changed. If the pH is not changed, the whole digestive process is messed up, and you will only have fermentation. And that is why when someone's pancreas stops working, it's over, because there's everything in the lower intestine, in the small intestine, is going to be acidic. If it's acidic, the absorption is non-existent, because there's nothing to absorb, because the final stages of digestion would not take place. It will just be passing through. So people who have pancreatic cancer, I mean, when they remove the gallbladder, there is still hope, because you have another organ which is called the pancreas, which aids in the process of breakdown. You know, but you'll find that a lot of people who remove their gallbladder, they will be constantly constipated. That's one of the problems they suffer from. And there are other issues that complicates their digestive process, okay? But you will find that the liver might still produce some of it still produces bile, but it's not stored, it's released as it is used, because there's no gallbladder. Now, bile processing and recycling. The hepatocytes, as we said, these are the cells within the liver that initiates and secrete bile, and it is stored in the help me say this word, canacula. Okay. It carries to, okay, the gallbladder via hepatic ducts. Okay. Now, and the ducts, you know, so, and these are just the larger ducts that you could see here, but there are much smaller ones that spread throughout the inside of the liver that collect all the secreted bile and empties it into the gallbladder. And 95% of the bile produced by the liver is recycled, okay, after 2 or 3 times during the digestion of a single meal. So it goes around and it keeps coming around. And I'm talking about after digestion. So it's just like enzymes. And enzymes are not destroyed in any of the digestive process. It empties and it goes into the bloodstream, and once it gets into the bloodstream, it goes back through the liver, and it is filtered out and placed into the gallbladder, and we constantly use that. So we recycle that for about 3 times and use it over and over. And cholesterol is one example of liver processing, and our body needs cholesterol for many different things, as we see, for the cell membrane, vitamin D, hormones such as progesterone and testosterone, myelin sheath, which is on your nerves. It's very important. That is what protects the nerves, and a component of bile salts. Okay, so cholesterol is very important, and it is processed within the liver. Now, 85% of the cholesterol in our blood is endogenous or manufactured by our own cells, mostly the liver cell. So do we need to take more cholesterol in our bodies? No, so this is the reason why we really don't need cholesterol from outside, because we're only adding to what our body naturally makes. And the way our body is designed, we're going to make what our body needs. So we don't need to add from. And how do we get cholesterol in our body? Do we know? From what? From what we eat, right? Cholesterol in the liver, that's where it's formed. Where does it go? Now, the liver constantly manufactures cholesterol using acetyl-CoA as substrate. Okay, so cholesterol to the gut via bile from emulsification of dietary fats, and some cholesterol to the blood for cell membrane, because our cell membrane need it. We need it for the making of our hormones and for the protection of our nerves. So vitamins also, so they absorb for the absorption of these vitamins that we will take in. So we have two types of cholesterol. We have the good one and the bad one. Huh? Okay, so we have two types of cholesterol, and we have the LDL, which is the low density lipoprotein, and we have the HDL, high density lipoprotein. So the low density lipoprotein is the bad one, and the high density lipoprotein is the good one. And these are the two that work together. LDL is a component of the arterial plaque that can lead to blockage of artery, and that's the bad one. So this is the dangerous one. So HDL can help to clear LDL from arterial walls. But the walls of our arteries are damaged by the pH of our body. So if our body is acidic, remember we talked about when we did acidosis, and we talked about how it could affect our blood vessels. So when the blood vessels become damaged, the LDL start patching the vessels. And once it starts patching these vessels, it continued doing it until it reached the point where it forms a blockage. So packing of cholesterol and interaction with other dietary and liver product produce fat may be more important than cholesterol level alone. So we get these bad cholesterol or the LDL from trans and saturated fat, and in most cases they are hydrogenated fats, meaning they're highly processed, and they affect us in a very, very negative way. The monounsaturated fat that comes from olive oil and canola oil, which, that is another oil that is already outdated. Maybe back in the days it was seen as a good oil, but canola oil is no longer recognized as a good oil that could be used. And then we increase our fiber intake. And this is an example or a diagram of how cholesterol is processed within our system. So, it shows us here how we consume our ice cream, which is something that is very high in cholesterol. We take it in, goes into our intestine, and once it goes into the intestine, it's absorbed via the capillary, and some of it goes to our body fat, some to the muscle, and this is it crosses the cell membrane as fatty acid. So once it goes over the capillary walls, it's entering into the bloodstream. Once it goes into the bloodstream, it's going around in the body, and somehow it's going to get to the liver, where if we have excess, the liver stores it. So any excess of anything that we have in our body, whether it's sugar or fat, and those are the two primary things that the liver will store, because it breaks down the sugar into fat. So it stores the fat, and it stores sugar as glucagon, and it stores the fat as fatty acid and glycerol. And this is just to help us to understand that when we take in excess fatty food or food with high cholesterol, it's going to result in plaquing on the arteries because our body don't have the capacity, and then eventually our liver become fatty, so it doesn't have anywhere to store it, and then it slows down the function, for our liver. So at this juncture, I think, understanding this concept will help us to recognize that the way we eat can really, really affect our liver function. And if our liver is not functioning the way that it needs to function, our body is not. We look at our skin, you could see it printing out on our skin. You have these plaques on your skin, you have psoriasis, you have all these different skin patches, things that are happening because once the liver cannot deal with it, the body pushes it out somewhere. And the skin is the best place or the easiest place to push it when the liver cannot deal with it. And once the liver become overloaded, it start affecting the kidneys. So they work so closely in conjunction with each other. If one is overloaded, the other one is going to be overloaded as well. So then it pushes it out on the skin. So when we have things like eczema and stuff like those are things that are indication of how our liver is functioning. So functions of the livers we went through some of these already. We look at breakdown, we look at synthesis, other function. It's storage of vitamin A, D, B12, and the other function, and excretion of waste, which we know it is the largest organs for filtering and removing waste from the body and bloodstream. Storage of blood, so we have that. Okay, so it also breaks down insulin and other hormones. So the hormones, when we have excess hormone in our body, if the liver is not working properly, hormones is something that constantly circulate within our system. It goes to the target areas where it's needed. And if the liver is not functioning, then hormones become an issue, and then that also start affecting our skin. So, I was reading this and I was thinking about a lot of our young people who have acne. That is a big thing, So I was looking at trying to figure out the implication of the hormones that the liver is not removing from the bloodstream and how it's pushing it out onto the skin and causing all of these, wreaking havoc on the skin. So breakdown of hemoglobin and breakdown or modified toxic substance, okay, and sometimes result in toxification. So it converts ammonia to urea, and that is excreted via the kidneys or other functions. So it produces albumin, the major smaller component of the blood serum. And okay, so when we get there, these are some of the, so albumin is one of the things they test for when we look at the different tests that you will see showing up on your blood work if you're checking to see how well your liver is functioning. Angiotensin, sinogen. This is one of the hormones we looked at when we look at the urinary system. We talk about this, where we talk about how the hormone is responsible for raising the blood pressure, and when activated by renin, which is an enzyme. So this is something we mentioned when we talk about the kidneys in our last presentation. And this here is also another function of the liver by synthesizing this hormone. So the disease of the liver, and I'm sure we're familiar with a lot of these liver disease. We know of hepatitis. It's very popular. We all know of the shots that is recommended before you go to college. They are compounding you to take, this vaccine. And this is a virus. It's which affects our liver. Disease caused by drugs, poison, or too much alcohol. So we end up with fatty liver disease and cirrhosis. And I will find that fatty liver is very, very, very common. A lot of people walk around with fatty liver. They don't even know that they have it. So it's something that is more common than we can imagine. People just don't know that they have it. Yeah. And liver cancer. And we have others that are inherited, liver disease that are inherited. So every day our liver is constantly under siege. As I said, we constantly beat up on our liver. Every prescribed medication, whether it's over-the-counter drugs or, drugs you take, must be filtered by the liver. So, we might not look at, some of us, we might say, okay, we don't take prescription drugs, or we take Tylenol, but it's also wreaking havoc on our liver. And even our herbs that we will take in, the liver has to work to filter those. And I'm saying herbs, which is not separated from a lot of the foods that we consume. It has to work to filter it. So alcohol abuse, and I don't think anybody here is abusing alcohol. Might just take a little bit in our cakes and in our tinctures, so it's not an abuse, but it still have an impact on the liver. So whether you're taking it in the vodka that we use to extract the component of our herbs for tincture, and it's still implicating the liver, whether it's a little bit or a lot. It is affecting how the liver function. Okay. So we have environmental pollutant, and we might not smoke, and there's a lot of people who don't smoke but have a lot of nicotine in their system. It would be surprising to find out how much people who would say, oh, but I don't smoke, and they can't even understand where this comes from. Okay, and they might think nobody in my house smoke, but there are some people who will hold on to a lot of these toxins much more than other people. So therefore it becomes an issue, and your system becomes toxic as a result of that. And then it results in all kinds of respiratory disorders. Now the chemical food additives, and we could name like 1,000 of these and keep going. Chemical food additives, they are known to cause abnormal cell growth. That's why your liver must be on high alert all the time. Okay? So the chlorination of our water, this is something that, it happens, we don't pay too much attention to this. But just making the water free from microbes by adding all the chlorine that there is to add to it can have serious implication on our liver. And heavy metals. This is something that a lot of people, I've seen so many people who have serious heavy metals within their system, and they don't know where this heavy metal comes from. And all of this has to be neutralized by the liver one way or the other. And then if you have heavy metal backed up in your system, you're going to find that it affects your nerve. It will affect it will make the whole body toxic. And a lot of people have heavy metal. They are not sure. It affects them in different ways. Okay? So when it starts affecting you in different, it's very important to know what heavy metal you have and find a way to push these out of your system one way or the other, because it's very, very difficult to have a healthy life with heavy metals backed up in your system. Okay? And then household chemicals, the sprays, the cosmetics, the ammonias, the hair dyes, the disinfectant. All of these are loaded with toxin. And when we put them in our system, it's just giving the liver more work to do. And the more work it has to do, the more it will become, it will work slower. And then we have pesticides. And pesticide is very big. And when it's not pesticide, it's GMOs. So they use the GMOs to reduce the use of pesticides, so they add the pesticide to the food. So they modify the DNA so that they don't have to use the pesticide. But either way you look at it, it's having a negative effect on your body, your DNA, your cells, and it is resulting in a lot of work on the liver. And the overuse of animal protein, this is also, another big thing, which it's very difficult to tell someone that, okay, you're eating too much of their animal product, which is so precious and dear to their lives. But, eating too much protein, it puts a lot of work on the liver, and not just the liver, also the kidneys, because our bodies doesn't have anywhere to store excess protein. So therefore, it has to go out of the system as fast as possible. So the liver has to work in breaking it down, and then the kidneys has to work and breaking it down, then you pass it out. If you notice, when you eat a lot of protein, you will urinate a lot more. Now, over 500,000 Americans have diseased gallbladder removed every year. And this it severely limits their ability to digest proteins and fat as well. Okay, so this statistics is about 4 years ago. So just imagine what it is today. So, and about another 1 million Americans suffer from serious liver problems. I don't know where they're going to get enough liver to have these liver transplants that people need. Because as much as people know what the risk factors are, they are not trying to change. There are babies that are born where their liver is not working, right? Right. So if their liver is not working, who gets the priority, the older people or the baby? And there's a lot of kids that have liver transplant that, it's very difficult to get a liver to adapt to a body, because they have to stay on these immunosuppressant, huh? Exactly. It's a lot of medication they have to take, and then their immune system it has to stay weak for their body to accept it, and even years after getting it, it still affects. Yeah, because I have a friend right now, he just got a liver transplant recently, maybe about 4 months ago. And he is on drip 24/7 at home. Yeah, taking all of these shots, everything. And I think he did it once, and then they had to redo the whole surgery because his body wasn't taking it. Right. So just imagine what that is. Because what I do know, he had a tumor on his liver before they removed the tumor. The thing was normal, but this is not someone who believes in changing their diet. They just believe in eating whatever and live for the time. But I'm just like, if you only want to live for the time, don't get a liver transplant. Just live for the time that your liver lasts. Wouldn't you say that's reasonable? That's what I think too. Yes, but he's just one out of every 10 people that we meet every day. We just don't know. Yeah. Okay, and I thought this was very interesting. I think you have this on that paper I gave you. One of the main jobs of your liver is to detoxify hormones and chemicals in the body so your body can eliminate them. But if your liver is not working properly, your body has to resort to a backup organ. And the organ it resorts to is the skin, right? Now, when irritating poison are excreted out of your skin, they can cause rashes, itchy skin, and even psoriasis and many other skin problems that we experience. And that was the point that I was trying to make earlier. Okay, we got to go back. And these are some examples of disease of the liver. Now, these are symptoms of disease, if we'll know if we have any liver problem. The skin and the eyes appear yellowish. So that's like one of the first things that you will see. You will see the eyes before you see the skin start looking yellow. Abdominal pain and swelling in the legs and the ankle. And you have itchy skin, dark urine color, pale stool color, or bloody or tar-colored stools. And that's indication that you have some form of bleeding. Chronic fatigue, nausea or vomiting, loss of appetite, and tendency to bruise easily. So these are some symptoms that we will experience if we are, or things you will see which you will indicate that there is some form of liver malfunctioning occurring. And these we need to pay attention to just, and these are various diseases of the liver. So we have inflammation, we have fibrosis, we have cirrhosis, and we have end-stage liver disease. We have inflammation, and this is the early stage of any liver disease. We're going to experience some form of pain. Which is the liver becoming tender and enlarged, and you will experience inflammation that shows your body is trying to fight an infection or heal an injury. And that is the first sign that you will notice, and they refer to this as inflammation, and this is not permanent. This can be rectified, and any disease of the liver can be fixed, because the liver is one of the organs that literally repairs itself. So this is inflammation, this is fibrosis, and if you look at this liver, you will notice, so if inflammation is left untreated, does this liver look normal? Right, it doesn't look normal. The inflamed liver will start to scar, and those are the scars that you will see on the liver. And as excess scar tissue grows, it replaces healthy liver tissues. And this is called fibrosis. So this is what it looks like. If you see it, you'll be able to identify. And as the scarring continue, because it just did not end up being cirrhosis of the liver, it is it starts with the inflammation, then the scarring. And then this is what it looks like when it's cirrhosis. So it has scar tissue replace soft, healthy tissues. As the condition worsens, the liver have less healthy tissues. And if it is not treated, the liver will fail and will not be able to work at all. Okay, so, and this is when you start bleeding and bruising easily. And you will have water build up in your legs or your abdomen. So you will notice the abdomen start expanding. And this is what happens to my friend that I told you guys about. So for the psoriasis, your eyes may be yellow, look jaundice, and all of these conditions are the conditions we looked at, or the symptoms we looked at. His skin may be itchy or may itch intensely. In blood vessel leading to the liver, the blood may be backed up because of blockage, and these blood vessels may burst. and you may become more sensitive to medication and their side effects. You may develop insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, even if you never had it before. Now, toxin may build up in your brain as well, causing problem with concentration, memory, sleeping, and other mental function. So if this disease is diagnosed, if it's, because as I said, this did not start as psoriasis, start with an inflammation. And this is the end stage, which is the last stage of all the disease that we look at. And this is, as I said, when it gets to end stage disease, they look for liver transplant. And then liver cancer is the growth and spread of unhealthy cells. So it is the unhealthy cells that spread throughout the liver, so it doesn't work anymore in the same way as the end cell disease. And it's about 30,000 Americans that is diagnosed with primary liver cancer every year. Now, why is this so? Is this a conspiracy that so many people end up with liver disease? Or is it that when liver disease starts, most people don't know? So this is something that, as a group, we need to pay attention to our bodies, know what our body should feel like, and when we're having complication or any issues, we could recognize it as fast as possible. It's another liver disorder. So we have RNA virus, which causes hepatitis A, and then this is fecal or oral. So this one it is something that you can get via contact. And then you have the DNA virus, which consists of surface and core, the core of antigen and e antigen. And I thought that, just seeing what this looks like might help us to understand what we're talking about. So this is the DNA virus, and this is the RNA virus, and this one has a single strand, as you see, and that one is dual. Usually anything with the DNA has 2 strands. RNA is usually 1 strand. Okay, so this is what it looks like, and this is not it. It's inside here, it's deep in the core. And then hepatitis C is also another RNA virus. And we see this is single strand. This one can be transmitted sexually and by the use of, any contact. Yes. So it can also be transmitted by snorting cocaine or using the same equipment, injecting needles, stuff like those. So complication of hepatitis C, we have psoriasis and hepatocellular carcinoma and psychoglobulin anemia. And we have can we say this one together? Pharia. Okay. Okay, so these are all complications that comes with it. I want to look at some of the tests, the liver test functions that the tests that we do. Okay, so these are some tests that you're going to see on your blood test that you will do. We have the ALT, the alkaline phosphate, and we have AST and the bilirubin. Okay, so that one is the ALT. So alanine aminotransferase, and that's an enzyme found mostly in the cell of the liver and the kidney. Much smaller amount. Okay, so when, oh man, this just shut down. Okay. So when the when the liver is not functioning as it should to absorb or break the enzyme down, you'll find that you'll have a lot more in your blood, and that yeah. So you'll find a lot more of the ALT within your system. So they will do your blood test to check what is the quantity is there. So if it's the amount is large, it is an indication that your liver is not functioning very well. It's deadly. Why is it not popping up? It's the liver. Okay, so we have the I lose my whole PowerPoint. I'm gonna be mad. Wait, just can I get a copy of this? Yeah. So there's also the bilirubin test that we do to test to see the levels in our blood. Most people are familiar with bilirubin. And how do we know that our bilirubin level is high? What are some of the symptoms that we experience? High bilirubin level. How do we know? So our skin become yellow, right? Well, is it just the skin, the eyes? And where is bilirubin? Is it something that liver make? It is a part of the serum in the blood, right? So it's naturally in the blood. If you do, if you do like your blood, the vial of blood, you look in it, the serum kind of have a yellowish look, right? So what the liver does is try to remove some of excess and push it out of your body. Okay, so that's what the liver does. It pulls it out and push it out. Now, bilirubin is also tested to tell how well the liver is functioning. The alkaline phosphate is also another test that is done to, and most of us probably never really have any liver issues, but we might, or you might not have seen the blood work of anybody who have liver issue. But in most normal blood work, they would do bilirubin, right? If you look at any blood work, you work with a lot of patients, so you will see they do bilirubin. Do they do the other tests, alkaline phosphate? Do they do all of these others? But you will always see that bilirubin test on there. Even in your regular urine test, it is also, if you're doing the strips, you will see that as one of them. So the testing of the levels will tell us how much, how much or how well the liver is functioning. The alkaline phosphate is also another one, as I said. And the albumin, the clotting factor within the blood, is also another factor that also indicate how well the liver is functioning. Okay, so the liver works to really normalize the toxin that we will see spilling over in the system. Now, now, what are some of the things that we can do to fix some of the issues or to fix our liver or help to support the functioning of the liver? What are some things that we could do to support that functioning?
One thing first,
So what would we start with? So we start with the diet, right? So if we are trying to support the function of the liver, we have to start with the diet. Now, what are we going to do? What should we do where the diet is concerned? So we have to reduce the amount of fatty food we take, starchy food that we take in. Okay, and if we're taking in even the tinctures that have the alcohol in there, the vodka, you use it to pull some people use vodka as the component to pull the component out. So the tinctures, so maybe if we're trying to do a liver cleanse, we probably shouldn't use tinctures made with vodka, right? What do you think? I know it's temporary, but we're trying to give the liver a break. What do you think?
okay, it's about the best thing to do is slow down, work on your liver. Liver is responsible of storing glucose in form of glycogen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you fasting, you're gonna start using that store.
No, the question that we had asked is if we're using tincture, if it would be a good idea to use.
From the herbs,
Yeah, if vodka,
it
if
depends how bad is the liver. If you have to use it, put in hot water and they shake it, most of the alcohol will evaporate. So it will become easy to have a very, very less effect.
okay, so that's one way of if you're going to use it,
If
then.
you have to, babe, I don't think we really have to use it.
Okay, I was just pointing that out because
If you have to, put it in a hot water and then take something to stir up the thing, most of the alcohol will evaporate. It depends on how concentrated you make the tincture.
yeah.
You can make some tincture twice, 2 times or 4 times strong. So it depends, and also the degree of alcohol you're using.
Yeah, so we start with the diet. That's the first thing. And in terms of diet, we're going to cut back on starch, carbs, what else? Fats.
Bad fat.
Fats, bad fats.
Because you got enough good fat to help the liver.
Exactly.
If you use the oil of black seed, it will help your liver like anything else.
Okay.
The fat is great. You hemp oil, the good one, the extra one, it will regenerate your liver like very, very good.
Okay, so we do the diet, and what's the best way we're going to do? Are we going to have like rice, cooked food? Do you think it would be a good idea?
If you are really congested, like you go dead raw, 3 weeks, whole month.
Three.
Yeah. And then you're doing raw, in your raw, put things that are for the liver. Like bok choy.
Bok choy.
Something bitter, right?
Yeah, some part. The leaves.
Really, no, not leaves. Something look like.
It is.
No. It's something. Um, it's not like a cabbage. They're small like this. They're very bitter.
Brussels sprout.
No, bok choy, right? Okay. That you do. dandelion leaves.
So we want to do dandelion leaves. We want to do.
Dandelion leaves. Anything that's good for the liver, for green.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want to do now the juice, lemon juice is good for your liver. A lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, what I'm trying to say here, any organ you want to deal with, it's not because it's raw, that it's necessary for that organ. So it's better we use things that are for that organ. Am I making sense, right?
And sometimes just fasting is also a good way to,
Great way.
so you fast for 3
If
days.
you are wild, then you use our what is it, yellow dog leaves. That you can juice it, bulldog, curly dog. We have a bunch of stuff, and you use herbal teas. So it depends how you want to make it. But the best way is
Milk
fasting
thistle is
to
also very good. I put those on the paper.
you. And it depends how big is the person, how sick you are. Because sometimes it depends. It really depends on the person. How sick is the person? You need 100% fast or not? You need fast and juice and some liquid. It depends how sick is the condition. Person is really, really sick and then fast and then have all the other problems. Then you're gonna put all of these things in it. So it depends how is the condition.
But what I would recommend, because one of the things that I recognize is that we are really, really sick, but we just don't know. And I just think that every single day of our lives, we should try to eat right and be healthy. As exactly. And I know there are different levels of being healthy. So we might say, okay, we're doing our brown rice and we're doing our, quinoa. We're doing all these things and we think, okay, we're eating healthy. But I just feel like when there's an opportunity, like now when it's spring, I think we should actually maximize the use of the things that are available that are wild. And try to use them as much as possible when they are available. I think most of us are familiar with some of the things that we can use. We might not know everything, but the ones that you're familiar with and you could access them, we could access them. I think we should really make use of these things and try to sustain ourselves, because at the end of the day, we need to stay healthy. That liver is such a vital organ to the normal functioning of the body. And when we really look at it, the liver is it's overworked. Everybody, I think, after getting to this point, practicing to eat healthy, we should at least fast 1 day out of the week. Just to rest the liver, just rest. And we have a lot of things we need to fast and pray about, right? So that is something that I think we should really embrace. Try to fast 1 day, rest our body. And that's a good way to work, to get the liver to jumpstart and, give it some time to repair. Yes.
What do you think about interval?
I am just thinking that most of us do that already. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, we eat breakfast, we don't eat until maybe 3 o'clock again. That's what I'm thinking.
You are in another world.
You think so?
Yeah, no,
Anybody want to volunteer to share? Mm-hmm. And afternoon, 4 o'clock? Yeah, so that's one person that eat breakfast in the morning, don't eat again until in the evening. Do you take juice with you? Drink water? Okay, so if,
I try to have a
You mean,
Once or twice a
The
week.
real
Once or
thing
twice
is
a
this:
week.
we have been wrongly educated about health, and then more than that, we don't know what it means to be healthy. As long as you are not sick, like you are not diabetic, you think you're healthy.
yeah, and that's,
Until you are growing some cancer somewhere, and the day pop, and you've gone.
well, that's what I find out,
We don't have, even if we don't eat meat, we eat a lot of things that's killing us. Even
especially,
eating dead food like bread. Bread is pure dead food. You can call it, this is whole wheat. No matter how whole it is, you already kill it. And then, and then next thing they will eat.
where is Michael? He got a whole wheat bread in Guyana.
So the point is about really re-educating ourselves about health. I listened to Dr. Gerson. She's in her 90s. 90s, because the father who was sick decided to put a real discipline for the children. Never go to doctor for any sickness. We can be from birth to 90. We don't need to be sick. We don't have to be sick. Another doctor, his name is Andrew Soul. We listen to this video here in the past. Andrew Soul, he doctored his children. He said, you guys are not going to no hospital. And they, from birth to adult, they don't go to the hospital for nothing. No vaccine. Not like, it's about taking responsibility. If we don't take that,
Well, where does he live?
right in America,
Good. But we don't eat
yes.
we hardly get we hardly get sick.
Oh, really?
I don't know. For example, I was
You know how
they're
many
not-
Adventist pastors are on medication?
Or on medication.
Yeah.
How many members are on medication?
And that
actually
from cancer.
when I say sick,
How
I
many
was
dying
thinking
from
about the liver.
cancer?
I was thinking about the liver.
What?
I wonder. I would like to know how many of us.
A lot of us have fatty liver because we don't eat meat. Yes, we don't. But we pig out on starch. And it's
I'm
the,
talking about the serious liver
And
problems.
and then the real thing is this. The real thing is this.
but it starts with
Our
some.
food is having seriously compromised. Okay? The rice you used to eat 20 years ago is not the same rice today.
I lost my.
The way they need to grow the food when you come to this country is not the same.
That's
way
how it
anymore.
is. No. That's his wheat now. It was this. Now it's this.
Okay? So this wheat now, the way everything, if you listen to this doctor, you're gonna be shocked. This is for a research. It's showing you how this wheat is completely breaking people's brain, like it turns you bad.
Yes.
Look at the children, very, very stubborn, can't listen with it. It's them. It's not just them. They're eating food that make them like that. They're feeding on information, TV, phone, everything makes them to become that jacked up. Like it's serious stuff. So we have to know it's not the same food anymore. Canola oil. Canola oil is vegan. Okay. Check out how much that thing gonna hurt you.
Kill you.
Okay.
That's fuel. That can kill you.
Soy oil. Soy used to be safe. Now, soy is one of the most dangerous you can put in your body.
And all of these oils,
Safe.
when
Now,
we.
tofu will make you grow any cancer in your body fast like that meat.
Adventists are
Food
eating
become
tofu
a
like
weapon
crazy.
of the devil. So we can't look at the food the same way anymore. And the raw of veganism is not the same thing anymore. It has been changed a lot. So if in the morning you take the cereal, it's vegan, and that cereal is compromised, they have things in it that are
Granola.
glyphosate, all of this to destroy your microbiome of your gut. And then know you're doing rice, and that rice is carcinogen. Cyanide rice they make it now. All the same thing anymore. In the evening you go for pasta. The same thing, the same. Look how we do it. In the morning, cereal, that's carbohydrate. And then noon, rice, carbohydrate. In the evening, pasta, carbohydrate.
Or if it's not rice, it's a sandwich.
Or something else. And when you look at it from the beginning to the end, it's pure sugar. And all of that, the body needs to be processing that. Like you're lacking mineral because they food are poor in mineral, you're lacking vitamins. You get the picture right now? You don't have a good fat in your diet, okay? And then you don't have a good When we live like that, we're gonna be sick.
Mercy.
The thing have been changed because if when I got sick here, I was like, wait a minute, let me get this way. I thought you don't eat meat, you good to go. No, you're not. I was eating too much of soy milk every day. The powder one make it like thick. It was too much. And then you see that whole week.
It's gone.
I used to eat whole week. So I used to eat the whole week, and then I would take peanut butter and
Mercy.
mash it very well. Peanut, you should not eat more than a handful. Handful is not too much, like a little bit like this.
Like none at all, right?
That's why you should eat. Peanut should not be that much. Any protein, you should not be eating too much protein. Okay? So I was eating like that. I thought I was safe. Guess what? I just take a couple of years. It made my whole body acidic. I started losing my jaw, my teeth, everything go on. And I was not sleeping. But I was working 60 hours a week in the night and reading and writing.
No collagen, so the teeth just
Things just stop falling off.
atrophy.
And I used to make my smoothie. Watch down. When I make smoothie, I put again peanut butter. When I do my whole week, peanut butter again. And I'm eating, I was eating like, I'm like, yes, I'm eating healthy now. No, believe me, you can be vegan and be eating to death.
And that's the big
It
problem.
will really mess you up.
And that's kind of what the observation that I make working with different clients. A lot of them, oh, I don't eat bad, I don't eat this, I don't eat that. They have these vegetarian seasoning that we presently use, calling chicken broth and stuff like those that people use on food. But the chemical component of these is just as bad as using any other food additive. So we just have to be very, very careful. And a lot of them, people who get sick, they're like, okay, I'm on a vegan diet. I've been eating vegan all this time, as Pastor Kuku just said. And why did I get sick? And some people are very, very bitter. It's like, some people even have it against eating vegetarian. That makes them sick. I remember a pastor that came to our church, his brother died. And he think his brother was vegetarian. And he's like, I'll never be vegetarian because that's what killed his brother. Now, believe it or not, that's his theory. It was being vegetarian that kills his brother, and he's never going to be vegetarian.
That is a very primitive thinking because people not think like that. You see? So I really suggest people to understand. Before, I used to believe that you have to eat 3 times a day. You have to eat 3 times a day.
I lost
Huh?
it.
That was supposed to.
Okay, that's how we grow up. Think like, oh, I can only eat a breakfast. I eat my lunch. And sometimes you eat lunch today, you just still make sure you eat your dinner because you need to eat the third meal.
6 o'clock.
And that third meal is toxic already to the body. And even after 7, so I'm sorry no matter how much faith you pray on it. Get a lot of because you can't digest all of this thing. You cannot.
There's no way.
There's no way in the world.
And it doesn't matter what you eat, because you might go home, you go home and you eat just this amount. You say, okay, I'm not eating a lot. I'm just going to eat 1 slice of bread or 2 crackers and drink some tea. Just do that for a whole month and see what happens. Because you're going to start getting fat. That's the first thing you're going to see. Believe me, it doesn't matter what you eat after a certain hour of the night. Just depend, and some people don't sleep. Some people stay up until 1, 2 o'clock. So that's something different. But when you don't get sleep, your body produces all of that cholesterol, and it's more cortisol. It's the liver. It's backed up in the liver. Once it's there, it keeps happening over and over. And all the medication that you go on, it can't go down. It's only sleep that you need to sleep. Stop eating late.
So what do you think about this? Sometimes it really happens that I'm late and need to eat something. I make sure I take a lot of enzyme with it.
No, you're not supposed to eat and take no enzyme. You don't need it. Just go sleep, drink water.
Some extreme cases, like, it
Uh,
doesn't happen often.
You're not gonna die.
Maybe once a month, maybe.
You're not diabetic. You'll sleep without the food.
Okay,
Yeah.
so food education, I encourage everyone to never believe you know it all. I listened to Dr. Sebi. This man says that he can just take herb and he have everything his body needs for the whole day.
Yes, it does.
Listen carefully now, based on what I knew.
Oh, then.
You see that you need this, you need this, you need this. And we forget our body make a lot of things store to use if you don't, when the time comes you can't eat something. The body going to use what was stored. God made this body to be so intelligent. You know that something going to happen, you can come late, you can't eat, whatever. The body says, okay, let me use what I store for you.
And that's the thing. We don't give.
I tried this diet, listen carefully, for almost a year. Religiously, herbal tea in the morning, something I don't use to do. Okay, I remove rice, like, I used to eat a lot of rice, right? I remove the rice. Most of the stuff remove. And believe me, my energy level went to the roof.
What did you do with the energy?
Energy? You didn't ask me that.
No.
So, just to let you see that, food, like, education about food must be open to learn. That's what I can say. Someone will come with something that doesn't make no sense, but that is the best information you need. But Sebi said that makes no sense to anybody. When I try it, he was telling you, remove all of these bad stuff. You don't need no protein. It doesn't really mean that. We think I need protein. We don't need any protein. If you did a green juice, have enough amino acid, help your body to make its own protein. You don't need, most of the protein are very toxic to our kidney, all of that. You listened to that last week, right?
2 weeks
If you
ago.
have to eat, like for example, the chickpeas, today I eat half of what I used to eat. So thank you for the person who put the food for me. So, and then I didn't store any for next time anyway, so good. Yeah, and you see, be open to learn, be open to adjust. Please, I know exactly what I'm talking about. Try your best. Keep changing something. Keep improving something. The first time I heard it to save it, I just made a whole almost half gallon. I mean, a gallon of, I used to juice for a week or 4 days. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this, man. So I don't find juice or pure carrot juice. You see, you want to try something drastic, remove anything that's starchy, remove it for a time. You're going to see something. I don't say don't take carrots. I don't say that. I need it sometimes until you get the right level of things. So try something. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, try something on your body. Let's say to yourself, I'm trying this summer, I'm doing 1 month pure raw juicing, and this I'm gonna do it this way and be still about it. To feel something, like testify something to yourself. That's my point. Try something for yourself.
Maybe we should try as a group, right? That might be motivating,
That's
right?
what we was trying to do. That everyone write a protocol on yourself. And I see a lot of people when they see me, they know I'm gonna ask that they pass me by, and they pray I didn't ask, but you still going for your blood work. Still going for your blood work. You're gonna write a protocol. You're gonna do something. At least you're gonna break it. At least 1 month since serious program you have to do. So you need to feel something that when you're gonna talk to someone, you know what you're talking about. You can't tell someone what to do if you never experience it, you never feel it. So it's important. It's really, really important. If we start, just start one time. Just one time. And you will see. It was in 2000 or 1999. I was sick. And the elder of my church said, what do you eat? What do you eat? I eat meat. I eat everything. You know what he told me? If you eat everything, you will suffer from everything. Period. And I learned it. He told me remove sugar. Because you got to take sugar every morning because you think you need to take coffee this, remove that, remove this. More, less than a month, all my teeth was gone. So, and I didn't know that much, but I keep learning. So my whole thing I want to tell you is this: learn, okay? Learn
And do.
and learn again.
But it's important that when you learn something, at least try to see how it works on your body. Because it's not everything's going to work the way someone testify. Because you might try something, it doesn't work that way, then you try something else. But as long as you're learning, you will be learning new things to try. Okay? If we have no questions with regards to this, then we can close on this. We could pray to close. I lost the whole PowerPoint. It's gone. I don't know where it is. Disappear. It's not even coming up. Neil, you're going to pray for us. I lost my whole PowerPoint. Just disappeared.
Okay, there is something quick here. Did I stop the recording?
Anything, is there any natural thing that can help? Things with, I forgot the recipe. Is there anything that you know that really,
Okay, everyone
really
sit
works
down,
that
please.
helps
We
to
are
keep those
finished.
going?
But they have to stop eating. Whatever they're doing, you have to stop eating. Can't eat and you just stop eating.